Chosen one. How many times has God whispered your name in the silence of 3 a.m. and you rolled over, calling it insomnia? How many times has He sent you a dream so vivid you woke up trembling and you dismissed it as too much dinner before bed? How many times has He placed a burning in your chest, a knowing so deep it shook your very bones, and you explained it away as anxiety? What I'm about to say to you may be the last time heaven calls your name like this. I will not warn you again. Do you hear that? That's not just any clock, beloved. That's the sound of mercy's final moments. For 70 years, 80 years, maybe 90, that pendulum has swung over your life. Tick, 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 marking moments of grace you thought would last forever. But what happens when mercy's clock stops ticking? What happens when the God who has been patient beyond measure finally says, "Time's up"? If God's voice thundered in your living room tonight, if the walls shook with His holy presence, if the very air crackled with divine electricity, would you recognize it? Or would you miss it like you've missed every other time? He's tried to reach you. Before we go deeper into this sacred moment together, I want to pause and thank every single one of you who has supported this message through Super Thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here, your support, your time, your attention. It all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and plant that seed of faith. But right now, this very second, heaven is watching. If you hear Him calling, if something in your spirit just stirred awake, type 144 in the comments. Let all of heaven and hell know you choose life today. Don't scroll past this moment. Don't dismiss this stirring. This time is different. The grandfather clock's ticking grows fainter, as if running out of time. Why do you think you're still breathing when others your age have already gone home? Why are you still here, still watching, still listening to this voice that cuts through the noise of your everyday routine? Why hasn't God called you home yet, when He's taken your spouse, your friends, your siblings who seemed so much stronger than you? Listen to me, chosen one. Your continued existence isn't an accident, it's an assignment. Every sunrise you've witnessed for the past 70, 80, 90 years has been heaven extending an invitation. But invitations have expiration dates. The ancient words of Moses thunder across the centuries, straight into your living room tonight. Deuteronomy 30:19 declares with divine authority, "I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now choose life, so that you and your children may live." This isn't a suggestion, beloved. This is the ultimate ultimatum from the throne of the Almighty. Picture this with me. You're standing at the edge of your driveway at 3 a.m. Two roads stretch out before your feet. To your right, a path paved with light so brilliant it makes diamonds look dull. Every step on this road echoes with the footsteps of Abraham, Moses, David, the heroes who chose God when choosing God cost them everything. To your left, a road paved with shadows so thick they seem to swallow hope itself. This path whispers of compromise, of just a little longer, of tomorrow I'll decide. Both roads start right here, right now, side by side at your feet. But dear one, they end in opposite eternities. How many of you remember that moment? Maybe it was 20 years ago, maybe it was last week, when you felt God's presence so thick in your bedroom you could have reached out and touched it. You knew He was calling you to something deeper, something that would change everything, but you hesitated. You said, "Let me think about it." You said, "Maybe tomorrow." And when tomorrow came, the feeling was gone. The door had quietly closed. The regret still haunts you, doesn't it? It wakes you up at night. It sits heavy on your chest during those long afternoon hours when the house is too quiet and the memories are too loud. You've been carrying that weight for years, wondering if you missed your moment with God. I've watched generation after generation make the same tragic mistake. They treat God's calling like a subscription service, thinking they can renew it whenever it's convenient. But that's not how heaven operates. When the Lord says, "Come," He doesn't say it indefinitely. When He opens a door, it doesn't stay open forever. Think about Noah. For decades he preached while building that ark. Every hammer blow was a sermon. Every plank was a prophecy. The door stood wide open while rain clouds gathered. But when God said, "Enough," that door closed with divine finality. Genesis 7:16 tells us, "Then the Lord shut him in." Not Noah, not an angel. The Lord Himself sealed the door. The ones outside weren't bad people. They were busy people, distracted people, people who thought they had more time. They pounded on that door when the rain started, but it was too late. The season of mercy had ended. The season of judgment had begun. How do you know you're not living in your final season of grace right now? How do you know this stirring in your spirit isn't God's last attempt to get your attention before He says, "Enough"? I see it happening all around me. Believers who once burned with holy fire now sitting in church pews like spiritual zombies. They still show up, still go through the motions, but the light in their eyes has dimmed. They missed their moment. They delayed too long. The door didn't slam shut, it just quietly closed while they were making other plans. And the most heartbreaking part? Many of them don't even know it's closed. They keep praying the same prayers, hoping for the same breakthroughs, wondering why heaven feels so distant. They don't realize they're on the wrong side of their own miracle. But you're different. You're here. You're listening. Something in your spirit is still awake, still stirring. That's not accident. That's mercy. That stirring you feel in your chest right now isn't anxiety. It's recognition. Your spirit recognizing that this moment carries weight that tomorrow won't have. The clock of mercy is ticking, and each tick is growing fainter. Each heartbeat in your chest is God saying, "Not yet, but soon." Each breath in your lungs is Him whispering, "Choose now while choosing is still possible." Before this message ends, I will tell you the one decision that will seal your future forever. Not just for the years you have left on this earth, but for the eternity that waits beyond your final breath. This decision will either secure your place in the Father's house or lock you outside while the feast continues within. But first, you need to understand something that will shake you to your core. You need to understand why God has been so patient with you, why He's given you more time than others, and why that patience is about to reach its divine limit. You feel it even before words form in your mind. The weight of being seen by the Almighty. God's eye is not scanning the crowd aimlessly. It has settled, unblinking, on you. Right now, in this very moment, the Creator of the universe has paused His attention on 7 billion souls and focused entirely on yours. Can you feel that intensity? That divine spotlight burning through every mask you've worn, every excuse you've rehearsed, every carefully crafted image you present to the world. This gaze is not casual. It pierces through the performance you put on at church, cuts past the smile you force when someone asks how you're doing, and travels straight into the chambers of your heart where you keep the thoughts you've never told a soul. He sees the 3 a.m. conversations you have with yourself when the house is quiet and pretense falls away. He watches you stare at the ceiling, wrestling with regrets that taste like copper in your mouth. He knows about the anger you've buried so deep you've convinced yourself it doesn't exist, the bitterness you've wrapped in religious language, the fear that gnaws at your bones when you think about how much time you have left. But here's what will shake you to your core. He doesn't just see these things, He's reading them. Like an open book spread across His eternal desk, every secret thought, every hidden motive, every whispered doubt is laid bare before His eyes. The psalmist knew this reality when he wrote in Psalm 33-18, "But the eyes of the Lord are on those who fear Him, on those whose hope is in His unfailing love." Notice that word "on," not toward or near. On, like a weight pressing down, like a hand placed firmly on your shoulder, like a father's gaze that won't let you look away when you've done something wrong. You've felt this before, haven't you? That moment when you were about to compromise, maybe nobody would know, maybe just this once, and something inside your chest tightened. That wasn't your conscience, that was his gaze. When you sat in that doctor's office and heard words that made your world tilt sideways, and you felt an inexplicable calm settle over you like a blanket that wasn't medical training or positive thinking, that was his gaze, holding you steady when everything else was falling apart. When your children walked away from everything you taught them, and you lay awake wondering if you failed as a parent, but somehow found strength to keep praying for them anyway, that endurance didn't come from your willpower. It came from his gaze, reminding you that he's watching them too. But this divine attention comes with holy weight. The same eyes that watch over you in love also watch over you in accountability. He sees when you choose the narrow path, and he also sees when you take the easy detour. He notices when you forgive from your heart, and he notices when you harbor resentment behind religious words. This is why some of you feel uncomfortable right now, not because God is angry with you, but because he's truthful with you. His seeing is not meant to shame you, it's meant to awaken you. When his gaze settles on the shadows where you've been hiding, it's not to expose you to the world, it's to call you back into the light. He doesn't just see you, he's reading the thoughts you've never told a soul. That dream you had at 17 that seemed impossible, then life happened, and you buried it under practical decisions. He still sees it. The calling you felt in your 20s that seemed too big for someone like you, he still sees it. The passion that once burned in your chest for his presence, before religion made it routine, he still sees it, flickering like an ember, waiting for his breath to fan it back to flame. The gaze of God is both your greatest comfort and your deepest conviction. Comfort because it means you are never unseen, never forgotten, never lost in the vast expanse of creation. Your existence matters to the one who hung the stars. Your struggles register in the heart of the one who controls the wind. But conviction, because this seeing demands response. You cannot remain unchanged under the gaze of the eternal. When his eyes rest on you, neutrality becomes impossible. You will either draw closer or pull away. You will either surrender more completely or harden more stubbornly. This is why your spirit has been restless lately. This is why certain things that used to satisfy you now feel empty. This is why you can't just coast through your faith anymore. His gaze has found you, and it's calling you higher. Some of you right now are feeling the weight of old compromises pressing down like stones in your chest. Deals you made with the world that seemed harmless at the time. Bridges you kept open to your past just in case God's plan didn't work out. Safety nets you built because trusting him completely felt too risky. His gaze sees every single one of them. And he's not asking you to explain them away or justify them with spiritual language. He's asking you to burn them completely tonight, right now. Because here's what his seeing has revealed about you. You were never meant to live with one foot in his kingdom and one foot in compromise. You were marked for total consecration, set apart, holy, separated unto him. This is your moment to step fully into that identity, to let his gaze burn away every escape route back to mediocrity, to choose the narrow path and destroy every map back to the wide road. If you feel this fire in your spirit right now, if his gaze has found the places where you've been playing it safe, then seal this moment with a declaration. Type, "I burn bridges" in the comments. Not as a casual gesture, but as a covenant with heaven that you're cutting ties with every compromise that has kept you from walking in the fullness of who he created you to be. When you burn those bridges, you're not just making a statement. You're making it impossible to retreat when the journey gets difficult. But burning bridges requires courage, and courage can only come from one source, the absolute certainty that the one whose gaze has found you will never leave you stranded. You feel it, don't you? That weight in your chest that comes at 2 a.m. when you're staring at the ceiling, remembering the phone call you never made, the conversation you never had, the forgiveness you never asked for, the prayer you kept putting off until tomorrow. That beautiful lying word that has stolen more destinies than the devil himself. Let me tell you about mercy, dear one. Picture a massive wooden door, ancient oak, weathered by centuries of storms, held by iron hinges that have borne the weight of eternity itself. For decades, this door has stood wide open. You've walked past it 1,000 times. You've heard the gentle creaking as the wind of the Spirit moved through it, calling your name. But you always said, later. When I'm ready. When life slows down. When I get my act together. But now you hear something different. A deep, groaning sound. The hinges are moving. The door that has waited patiently for 70 years, 80 years, is beginning to close. You know the story of Noah, don't you? Genesis tells us that for 120 years, Noah hammered away at that ark while people laughed, while they mocked, while they went about their business, eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage. Every swing of Noah's hammer was a sermon. Every plank was a plea. Every day the door stood open was another opportunity to step inside. But then came the day when God himself shut them in. Genesis 7:16 says, "Then the Lord shut him in," not Noah, not an angel. The Lord himself closed that door. And when God closes a door, no human hand can open it again. How many of your friends didn't make it to see this day? How many went to their graves still carrying unforgiveness in their hearts, still angry at God for disappointments they never released, still bitter about prayers they thought went unanswered? You sat at their funerals, didn't you? Watched their children weep, watched their grandchildren wonder if grandpa really made it to heaven, watched families torn apart by doubt and regret. And in those moments you felt it, that cold finger of eternity tracing down your spine, whispering, "Your turn is coming too." What legacy are you leaving? What are your grandchildren going to say about you when they stand over your casket? Will they remember a grandmother who walked in the fire of God's presence? Or will they remember someone who was always too busy, too tired, too distracted to pursue the God who was pursuing her? Here's what breaks my heart about delay. It's not dramatic. It doesn't announce itself with trumpets and fanfare. Delay is the silent thief that slips into your life through the back door of good intentions. I'll pray more tomorrow. I'll read my Bible when I retire. I'll get serious about God when I have more time. But time is the one thing you're running out of, beloved. Every sunrise could be your last. Every heartbeat is borrowed. Every breath is on loan from the God who numbers your days. Think about this right now. In nursing homes across America, there are men and women in their final hours who would give anything for just one more chance, one more opportunity to surrender completely, one more moment to feel the presence of God wash over them like healing rain. But their minds are clouded, their words are confused. The moment has passed them by. Is that going to be you? Are you going to wait until your final breath to finally stop running from the very God who has been chasing you with love for 8 decades? The prophet Isaiah cried out, "Seek the Lord while he may be found. Call upon him while he is near, while he may be found, while he is near." That language isn't accidental, it's urgent. It's warning you that there's a window, and windows close. You've heard that groaning, haven't you? Deep in your spirit, you've felt the shift. The same Holy Spirit who has wooed you gently for years is now speaking with holy urgency. The same Jesus who knocked politely at your heart's door is now standing with his hand on the handle, preparing to turn away. Mercy is not endless. Let that sink into the depths of your soul. The God who has been patient beyond measure, who has forgiven your wandering, who has covered your rebellion with grace, even his patience has limits. Not because he doesn't love you, but because justice demands its day. Delay is the silent thief of eternity. While you've been postponing surrender, souls have slipped into hell. While you've been making excuses, demons have celebrated. While you've been putting off what you know you should do, the enemy has been stealing ground in your family that may take generations to reclaim. Your great-granddaughter, 50 years from now, will she know the God of her ancestors? Or will the line of faith end with you because you were too proud, too stubborn, too afraid to fully surrender while there was still time? The door is still open, but it's moving. Can you hear it? That deep, ancient groaning as the hinges of mercy begin their final turn. What are you waiting for? What excuse are you clinging to? What fear is keeping you from stepping through before it's too late? Because when that door closes, when the last echo of its thunder fades into eternity, there will be no negotiating, no bargaining, no last-minute appeals. There will only be the sound of your own heartbeat and the terrible realization that you had every chance in the world to choose life, and you chose delay instead. But here's the mystery that will determine everything. What happens when delay meets desperation, when time runs out and eternity breaks in? Listen to me very carefully, beloved. While you've been wondering if God has forgotten you, if your prayers have been bouncing off heaven's ceiling, if you've somehow been passed over for blessing, something sacred has been happening in the invisible realm that will shatter every lie you've believed about yourself. You are not forgotten. You are not overlooked. You are marked. There's an ancient passage in Ezekiel chapter 9 verse 4 that reads, "Go throughout the city of Jerusalem and put a mark on the foreheads of those who grieve and lament over all the detestable things that are done in it." This wasn't just historical record, dear one. This was prophetic blueprint. God was showing us how He identifies His remnant in every generation. Right now, as I speak these words, there are people watching this message who feel that familiar ache in their chest when they see wickedness prospering. You can't watch the news without feeling sick. You can't drive through your neighborhood without grieving over what's become of America. You can't sit in family dinners without feeling like a stranger because your values seem foreign to everyone around you. That grief you feel, that's not depression, that's the mark. You think you're too sensitive. You think you care too much. You think there's something wrong with you because you can't just go with the flow like everyone else. But what if I told you that your sensitivity to evil is actually heaven's fingerprint on your soul? The marking isn't visible to human eyes, but it's unmistakable in the spiritual realm. Angels see it and immediately know this one belongs to the King. Demons see it and recoil in terror because they recognize the authority flowing through your bloodstream. You carry heaven's frequency in a world that's tuned to hell's station. But here's what will shock you about this marking. It's not new. You didn't receive it when you got saved. You didn't earn it through years of church attendance. You've been carrying this seal since before you took your first breath. Jeremiah 1-5 declares it clearly. "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. You were marked in eternity, chosen before the foundation of the world, set apart for such a time as this." Do you remember being a child and feeling different? Feeling like you didn't belong? Other kids seemed to fit in so easily, but you carried this strange weight, this knowing that there was more, that things weren't right in the world. That wasn't childish confusion. That was the mark awakening in your young spirit. You've spent 70, 80, 90 years thinking you were broken, but you weren't broken. You were branded, sealed, set apart. And now, in these final days before Christ's return, God is calling His marked ones out of hiding. He's awakening the sleepers. He's stirring the watchers. He's commissioning the grievers to become warriors. Because you see, the same mark that makes you grieve over evil also empowers you to overcome it. The same sensitivity that breaks your heart over sin also equips you to break the power of sin over others. The same burden that makes you weep for this generation also anoints you to deliver this generation. But I need to tell you something that might disturb you. Not everyone who claims to follow Christ carries this mark. Jesus said in Matthew 7:22-23, "Many will say to me on that day, 'Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and in your name drive out demons, and in your name perform many miracles?' Then I will tell them plainly, 'I never knew you.'" The mark is not about religious activity. It's about spiritual DNA. It's not about what you do on Sunday morning. It's about who you are in your core. The marked ones can't fake it, can't manufacture it, can't earn it through good behavior. Either you have it or you don't. And if you're hearing this message right now, if something in your spirit is leaping as these words hit your ears, it's because you carry the mark. The very fact that you're here, that you haven't clicked away, that your soul is stirring with recognition, that's the mark responding to its own frequency. The enemy has spent years trying to convince you that your differentness was a curse. He's whispered that your sensitivity was weakness, that your burden for righteousness was religious pride, that your inability to compromise was social awkwardness. But he's been lying to you because he fears what happens when the marked ones finally wake up to who they are. When God's marked remnant rises in this hour, when they stop hiding and start walking in the authority of their calling, demons don't just flee, they evacuate entire regions. When the marked ones pray, heaven doesn't just listen, it mobilizes. When they speak, it's not just words, it's divine decree, backed by all the power of the throne room. You've been in training your whole life for this moment. Every hardship refined you. Every betrayal revealed enemy tactics. Every season of waiting built your endurance. Every time you wanted to quit but didn't, you were proving you could carry the weight of the mark. Now, heaven is calling you to step forward. Not next week, not when you feel more ready. Now, if you know you carry this mark, if you recognize yourself in what I'm describing, if the Holy Spirit is confirming these words in your spirit right now, then make it known. Type 318 in the comments. This number represents Abraham's 318 trained men who fought to rescue what the enemy had stolen. By typing this, you're declaring that you're ready to fight for what hell has tried to steal from your generation. Don't hesitate. Don't overthink it. The marked ones move when heaven calls. But there's one thing every marked person must do before it's too late. One assignment that separates the truly chosen from those who only think they are. You know what breaks my heart? It's the battles you've been fighting that no one else can see. Those 3 a.m. moments when you're staring at the ceiling, wrestling with thoughts that would terrify your own family if they knew. The silent screams echoing in your chest while you smile at Sunday dinner. The weight pressing down on your shoulders that's so heavy you can barely breathe, yet you carry it to your grave rather than burden another soul. Dear chosen one, I need you to understand something that's going to shatter every lie you've believed about your midnight struggles. Those invisible wars aren't evidence of your weakness. They're proof of your calling. Think about it. Why do you think the enemy wages his fiercest battles in the darkness of your mind? Why does he attack you in the quiet hours when no witnesses can cheer you on? Because he knows something about your destiny that you've forgotten about yourself. The devil doesn't waste ammunition on empty targets. Every sleepless night you've endured, every tear that soaked your pillow in silence, every moment you felt like you're drowning while everyone around you thinks you're swimming, those aren't accidents. They're targeted strikes against someone carrying something precious, something threatening to the kingdom of darkness. Let me tell you about a man who understood these hidden wars better than most. His name was Elijah. Fresh off calling down fire from heaven, defeating 450 prophets of Baal, proving God's power before an entire nation. You'd think he'd be on top of the world, wouldn't you? But 1 Kings 19:12 shows us what happened next. After the earthquake, after the wind, after the fire, God spoke to Elijah in a gentle whisper. Why? Because this mighty prophet was hiding in a cave, begging God to let him die, from supernatural triumph to suicidal despair in 24 hours. Sound familiar? How many times have you experienced your greatest spiritual victory only to find yourself, days later, questioning everything? How many times have you felt God's presence so powerfully in church on Sunday, only to wake up Monday morning feeling completely abandoned? That's not coincidence. That's warfare. The enemy knows that your public victories are built on private foundations. If he can crack those foundations in the hidden places, your visible testimony will eventually crumble. So he wages war where you're most vulnerable, in the sacred space between your ears, in the chambers of your heart where only you and God can go. But here's what the enemy never counted on, those very battles he's using to try to destroy you. God is using them to develop you. Every night you've cried yourself to sleep and still chose to trust him that built supernatural endurance. Every morning you've awakened to the same pain and still whispered, "Thank you, Jesus," that forged unshakable faith. Every moment you felt like giving up, but didn't that was heaven's boot camp, preparing you for battles others could never survive. Your scars aren't shame marks, beloved. They're spiritual stripes, evidence that you've been in hand-to-hand combat with hell itself and lived to tell about it. Do you realize what that makes you? It makes you dangerous to darkness. It makes you a weapon wrapped in flesh. It makes you someone who can look another broken person in the eye and say with authority, "I know what you're going through, and I know the God who can bring you through it." The world sees your struggles and calls you weak, but heaven sees those same struggles and calls you a warrior. The world looks at your midnight tears and whispers unstable, but God looks at those tears and sees liquid intercession prayers so deep they bypass your vocal cords and flow straight from your spirit to his throne. Every hidden battle you've fought has been a promotion in disguise. Every private victory has added weight to your spiritual authority. Every moment you've chosen faith over fear in the darkness has been recorded in heaven's Hall of Fame. But I need to ask you something that's going to cut deep. How much longer are you going to let the enemy convince you that these battles disqualify you? How much longer will you believe the lie that your struggles make you less valuable to the kingdom? Because while you've been fighting to survive your hidden wars, God has been preparing to use every scar, every tear, every sleepless night as weapons in someone else's deliverance. The question that will determine your destiny is this: will you keep hiding your battles in shame? Or will you finally understand that your hidden wars have been preparing you for visible victories that will shake the gates of hell? Multitudes, multitudes in the valley of decision. For the day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision. Joel 3:14. Beloved, you are standing in that valley right now, this very moment. This isn't poetry, this is prophecy. You can feel it, can't you? That strange heaviness in the air around you, like the atmosphere before a thunderstorm that changes everything. Picture this valley with me. It stretches endlessly before you in the gathering dusk, shadows growing longer by the minute. Two narrow trails snake through the darkness, one lit by flickering torches that seem to dance with holy fire, the other growing dimmer with each passing second. In the distance, you hear it. The sound of a battle that's been raging since time began. The war for your soul. You've been walking toward this valley your entire life, haven't you? Every choice, every prayer, every moment you felt God tugging at your heart, it was all leading here. To this crossroads where eternity hangs in the balance. But here's what terrifies me for you, dear one. You're still carrying chains from 30 years ago. 40 years ago. Maybe 50. I'm talking about that unforgiveness that's been eating at your heart like rust on iron since 1987. That bitterness toward your sister who never called when Dad was dying. That rage toward the church that hurt you so deeply you haven't darkened their doors since the Clinton administration. Those chains are real, beloved. They rattle when you walk. They leave marks on your soul. And in this valley of decision, they're dragging you toward the wrong path. How many nights have you laid awake at 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling, whispering prayers that felt like they bounced off heaven's walls? How many times have you started to forgive, started to let go, started to surrender that grudge, only to pick it back up the next morning, like a security blanket made of thorns? I will not warn you again. The valley does not stay still forever. You know what breaks my heart? The weight of your unspoken prayers. The words you've been choking back for decades because you thought you weren't worthy to speak them. The dreams you buried alive because someone told you at 73 it's too late to dream. The calling you've been running from since Reagan was in the White House. God sees every prayer you never prayed, every yes you swallowed, Every moment, you almost stepped into his plan, but pulled back at the last second because fear whispered, "What if you fail? What if you're too old? What if it's too late?" Those unspoken prayers are piling up in heaven like snow on a roof. And that roof is about to collapse under the weight of your hesitation. The torches on the righteous path are burning lower now. Can you see them? Each moment you delay, each day you postpone that conversation with God, each week you put off that decision you know you need to make, the light grows dimmer, because mercy has a deadline, beloved. Grace has an expiration date. You think you have tomorrow, you think you have next month, you think you have next year to finally surrender that addiction that's been controlling you since Nixon was president, to finally forgive that person who destroyed your trust when you were young, to finally answer that call he's been placing on your heart for decades. I will not warn you again. The valley does not stay still forever. Listen to me carefully. The enemy is counting on your hesitation. He's banking on your belief that you have unlimited time to get right with God. He's whispering, "One more day won't hurt. One more week won't matter. You've waited this long, what's a little longer? But I need you to hear this truth that will shake you to your core. That distant sound of battle, it's not some far-off spiritual war. It's the fight for your eternal destination, right now, tonight, this very hour." Satan knows something you need to understand. He knows that the longer you stand in this valley, the heavier your feet become. The longer you hesitate between those two paths, the harder it gets to choose the narrow one. Delay is his deadliest weapon, because delayed obedience eventually becomes no obedience at all. You feel that trembling in your spirit right now. That's not fear, that's recognition. Your soul recognizing that this moment, this message, this very breath you're breathing, could be your last invitation to step onto the path of life. The multitudes in Joel's valley weren't sightseers. They were souls standing at the crossroads of eternity, just like you. Some chose light, some chose darkness. But here's the terrifying truth that will haunt you, if you ignore it. Everyone had to choose. I will not warn you again. The valley does not stay still forever. The question burning in heaven's courts right now isn't whether you're good enough, smart enough, or worthy enough. The question is this: will you finally stop running from the God who has been chasing you with his love for 70, 80, 90 years of your life? Because, beloved, this valley leads somewhere, and where you end up depends entirely on the choice you make right now. Listen to me very carefully. Chosen one. What I'm about to reveal will separate those who play church from those who are the church. You've spent decades wondering why life feels like a constant battle, why every step forward seems to invite 3 steps of opposition, why the enemy knows your address better than some of your own family members. The answer will shock you. You weren't born into a peaceful world, dear friend. You were deployed into enemy territory. Right now, in this very moment, the Ancient of Days is rising from his throne. Can you feel it? That stirring in your chest isn't heartburn from last night's dinner. That's the Spirit of the living God, preparing to mark you with something the enemy has been dreading for decades. Revelation 7:3 thunders across eternity. Do not harm the land or the sea or the trees until we put a seal on the foreheads of the servants of our God. Not might put a seal, not could put a seal, will put a seal. This isn't a suggestion, beloved. This is a divine decree being activated over your life right now. But here's what most believers don't understand about heaven's seal. It's not a pretty little stamp for your spiritual scrapbook. It's a combat identification. When angels see that mark, they know you're authorized for supernatural backup. When demons see it, they know they're fighting someone heaven refuses to lose. You think your struggles have been random. You think those midnight panic attacks were just anxiety. You think that depression that follows you like a shadow is just chemical imbalance. No. You've been under targeted assault because hell recognized the seal before you did. The enemy has been trying to kill what God was preparing to commission. And now comes the sword. Ephesians 6:17 declares it clearly, "Take the sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of God." But this isn't some decorative blade hanging on a wall, gathering dust while you sing hymns and eat potluck dinners. This is a weapon of mass destruction against the kingdom of darkness. Do you understand what's happening to you right now? God isn't just saving you from something, He's saving you for something. That gentle grandmother who's been praying for 40 years. Heaven sees a warrior who's been in basic training. That retired mechanic who feels useless. God sees a general who's been learning the machinery of the spirit realm. This is not for the faint of heart. Heaven's seal is not for display, it's for battle. But here's where it gets dangerous for the enemy. When God seals someone at your age, at your level of experience, with your depth of pain transformed into wisdom, that combination becomes unstoppable. You're not some young recruit who's going to panic at the first sound of gunfire. You're a seasoned veteran who's already survived what should have killed you. The seal marks you as untouchable, but the sword makes you unbeatable. I can see some of you right now, tears streaming down your faces, because something ancient is awakening in your spirit. You're remembering who you were before the world told you who you should be. That fire you felt as a young believer, it never died, beloved. It's been banked like coals, waiting for this moment when God fans it into a supernatural blaze. But accepting this seal and sword comes with a price. You can't go back to playing it safe. You can't return to the comfortable Christianity that asks nothing and changes nothing. Once heaven marks you as active duty, neutral is no longer an option. The question burning in the throne room of God right now is this: will you accept the commission that comes with the mark? Will you take up the sword that's been forged specifically for your hand? Will you step into the battlefield assignment that's been waiting for someone exactly like you? Because here's what I know about God's timing. He doesn't mark warriors when the war is over. He marks them when the final battle is about to begin. If your spirit is confirming what I'm speaking, if you feel the weight of eternity settling on your shoulders, if you're ready to stop being a casualty and start being a conqueror, then seal this moment with a prophetic act. Type 452 in the comments right now. This number carries the authority of Nehemiah chapter 4 verse 52, the days it took to rebuild walls that enemies said could never be restored. By typing 452, you're declaring before all of heaven and hell, I am a wall builder in my generation. I will not let the enemy tear down what God is reconstructing through me. But understand this, once you type those numbers, there's no going back to ordinary. Once you accept the seal and the sword, everything changes. Your prayers will carry more weight. Your words will have more power. Your very presence will shift spiritual atmospheres. The enemy is watching these comments right now, terrified of how many will answer the call. Will you be one of the marked ones? Listen to me, chosen one. That burning in your chest right now, that's not heartburn from last night's dinner. That's the fire of the Almighty moving through your spirit, and you can't shake it off no matter how hard you try. You've been asking God, why me? Why has my life been so hard? Why have I walked through hell while others seem to glide through life on a bed of roses? But what if I told you something that would shatter everything you thought you knew about your pain? That fire wasn't meant to destroy you. It was meant to forge you. Isaiah 48:10 declares with thunderous authority, I have refined you in the furnace of affliction. Not I might refine you, or I will refine you someday. I have refined you. Past tense. Already done. The work is complete, even if you can't see it yet. You think about that divorce that nearly killed you. You remember lying on your bedroom floor at 2 a.m., sobbing so hard you couldn't breathe, wondering if the pain would ever stop. But what if that wasn't God punishing you? What if that was God burning the chains off your heart that kept you settling for less than His best? You think about that financial collapse when you lost everything. The house, the retirement fund, the security you spent 40 years building. You felt abandoned by heaven itself. But what if that wasn't abandonment? What if that was God setting your possessions on fire so you'd finally learn that your true treasure isn't stored in banks, it's stored in Him. You think about that prodigal child who broke your heart into a million pieces. The one you raised in church, taught to pray, loved with everything in you, only to watch them walk away from everything you held sacred. You've cried yourself to sleep, wondering what you did wrong. But what if that wasn't failure? What if that was God burning away your need to control, so you'd finally learn to trust His sovereignty over the ones you love? Dear one, that pain you thought would kill you, it was God burning the ropes off your wrists. Every betrayal that cut you to the bone, that was God's fire burning away your dependence on human approval. Every health scare that left you trembling, that was heaven's flames burning away your illusion of self-sufficiency. Every dream that died in your hands, that was the Almighty's furnace burning away your small vision, so He could give you His eternal perspective. The fire of God doesn't burn randomly, it burns strategically. It doesn't consume what He wants to keep. It only destroys what was never meant to follow you into your next season. Think about a blacksmith's forge. When he places raw metal into those flames, it doesn't look like creation, it looks like destruction. The heat is so intense it would kill an untrained person just to stand near it. But the master craftsman knows exactly what he's doing. He's not trying to destroy the metal. He's revealing what was always hidden inside it. Those flames burn away the impurities, the weakness, the flaws that would make the final product brittle and useless. And when that metal comes out of the fire, it's not weakened, it's strengthened beyond measure. It's been transformed from something ordinary into something that can bear weight, withstand pressure, and accomplish purposes it never could have fulfilled in its original state. That's what God's fire has been doing in your life. Every tear you've cried has been liquid silver being refined. Every sleepless night has been gold being purified. Every moment you thought you wouldn't survive has been steel being tempered for battles you can't even imagine yet. But here's what the enemy doesn't want you to understand. The same fire that almost broke you is the same fire that's about to launch you into the greatest season of your life. You've been thinking the flames were your ending, but they were your beginning. You know why you've felt so different from everyone else, why you've never quite fit in anywhere, why even your closest friends can't understand the weight you carry. Because ordinary people don't get put through extraordinary fires. God doesn't waste His refining flames on vessels He's not planning to use for significant purposes. The door is closing on your season of wondering if you're called, but the fire is opening something in you that will make every person who meets you know immediately that you've been touched by the divine. Look at your hands right now. Really look at them. Those aren't ordinary hands anymore. Those are hands that have been through the fire and came out carrying the fragrance of heaven. Those are hands that have been refined to touch broken hearts and heal them. Those are hands that have been purified to lay on impossible situations and watch God move mountains. Look at your voice. It doesn't sound the same as it did 5 years ago, does it? There's something different about it now, something deeper, something that carries weight when you speak. That's because your words have been through the refining fire. They've been tested in the furnace of real life. When you speak now, people don't just hear sound, they hear authority born from authentic encounter with the living God. Look at your heart. It's bigger now, isn't it? More tender, more compassionate. You can look at someone who's hurting and feel their pain in your own chest. That's not weakness. That's the fire of God, burning away your self-centeredness and expanding your capacity to love like He loves. The fire isn't finished with you yet. Even now, as these words penetrate your spirit, you can feel it burning. But this time you're not afraid. This time you understand. The flames aren't coming to harm you. They're coming to complete what God started in you years ago. Every person who's ever doubted you, every voice that's ever said you weren't good enough, every moment you've questioned your own worth, it's all about to be answered when they see what comes out of God's refining fire. But I need to ask you something that might cut deep. Are you going to keep running from the fire, or are you finally ready to dance in it? You thought you were alone, didn't you? Sitting there in your kitchen at dawn, praying over lukewarm coffee while the world sleeps. You thought you were the only one who feels this burning in your chest when you watch the news, the only one who weeps over a nation that's forgotten its God, the only one who lies awake wondering if anyone else still believes miracles are real. But what if I told you that right now, this very second, there are thousands watching this message who know exactly what you're feeling? What if I told you that God has been gathering his remnant from sea to shining sea, and you're part of something so much bigger than your lonely prayers? Look at your screen. Look at these comments flooding in. Each name represents a heart that beats like yours, a soul that refuses to bow, a spirit that won't be silenced. You're not the last one standing, beloved. You're the first one rising. The Apostle Paul knew this mystery when he wrote in Romans 11:5, "So too, at the present time, there is a remnant chosen by grace, not chosen by works, not chosen by perfection, chosen by grace." And if you're still here, after everything life has thrown at you, if you're still believing when others have given up, if you're still praying when prayer seems pointless, that's grace marking you as remnant. But here's what breaks my heart about God's people today. The enemy has convinced you that being faithful means being few, that standing for truth means standing alone, that choosing righteousness means choosing rejection. And so you've hidden, you've whispered when you should have roared. You've apologized for your convictions when you should have proclaimed them. No more. Tonight, heaven is pulling back the veil. Tonight, you're going to see what God sees when he looks across this nation. Not the darkness that makes headlines, not the chaos that fills the airwaves. He sees points of light, thousands upon thousands of lights piercing through the blackness like stars in a midnight sky. You want to know why the attacks against your faith have been so vicious lately? You want to know why it feels harder to be a Christian in America than ever before? Because the enemy knows what you're about to discover. He knows that when the remnant realizes they're not scattered refugees but a mighty army, everything changes. Think about Gideon. God took his army from 32,000 down to 300, not because he wanted to make it harder, but because he wanted to make it clear. When 300 defeat an army of 135,000, nobody gets to claim it was human strength. That's divine mathematics. That's remnant power. And that's exactly what God is doing in America right now. He's not looking for the multitudes who follow the crowd. He's looking for the 300 who will stand when everyone else sits down. The 300 who will speak truth when everyone else whispers lies. The 300 who will choose faith when everyone else chooses fear. You've felt it, haven't you? That pull to be different. That discomfort when you tried to blend in with the world. That burning in your spirit when you hear God's name mocked or his word dismissed. That wasn't condemnation, that was confirmation. That was the Holy Spirit marking you as set apart. But being remnant isn't just about what you believe. It's about what you're willing to do when your beliefs are tested. It's about standing in the grocery store line and not laughing at the dirty joke. It's about turning off the television when it mocks what you hold sacred. It's about praying over your meal in restaurants when everyone's watching. The remnant doesn't blend in because they can't blend in. They carry too much light. They've been to the throne room and the glory still clings to their clothes. They've tasted heaven's bread and earthly food has lost its flavor. They've heard the voice of the Almighty and human opinions sound like whispers. And right now, God is calling his remnant out of hiding, out of the shadows, out of the comfortable corners where you've been playing it safe. Because what's coming to this nation, both judgment and revival, requires a people who are not ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ. Listen to me carefully. The church buildings might be emptying, but the true church is filling up. The denominations might be compromising, but the remnant is being purified. The religious institutions might be failing, but the faithful are rising. You see, God doesn't need the majority to change a nation. He just needs the marked ones, the chosen ones, the remnant who remember that greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. Nehemiah rebuilt the walls of Jerusalem with a remnant. Ezra restored worship with a remnant. Elijah called down fire with a remnant of one. And God is about to do something in America that will leave the world speechless. And He's going to do it through you, His remnant. But here's the question that will determine everything. Will you stay hidden, or will you step forward? Will you keep your light under a bushel, or will you let it shine for all to see? Will you remain a secret believer, or will you become a visible warrior? If you know in your spirit that you're part of God's remnant in this hour, then stop hiding. Type "I am the remnant" in the comments right now. Let heaven see your declaration. Let hell hear your defiance. Let this community of believers surround you with the strength that comes from knowing you're not alone. Because when the remnant recognizes each other, when we stop fighting isolated battles and start moving as one army, the gates of hell will not prevail. The darkness will not advance. And this nation will see the power of God moving through ordinary people who refuse to bow to extraordinary pressure. The remnant has been scattered long enough. Tonight, we gather. Tonight, we unite. Tonight, we remember who we are and whose we are. But gathering is just the beginning. Because what God is about to ask of His remnant will require everything you thought you couldn't give. Listen carefully. Chosen one, what I'm about to reveal to you isn't just about your personal breakthrough. This is bigger than your family line, bigger than your neighborhood. This is about the destiny of America itself. Right now, as I speak these words, there are storm clouds gathering over this nation, unlike anything we've seen in our lifetime. The moral fabric is unraveling at breakneck speed. Children are being taught that good is evil and evil is good. The very foundations our founding fathers built upon are crumbling beneath our feet. But here's what the mainstream media won't tell you. Here's what the politicians can't see. Here's what even many pastors are afraid to declare. God is not abandoning America. He's calling forth His remnant. You see, beloved, while darkness spreads across our cities like spilled ink on white paper, there are beams of divine light breaking through over certain homes, over certain churches, over certain communities where the faithful still kneel in prayer at kitchen tables and cry out for their nation. The prophet David understood this when he penned these eternal words in Psalm 33:12. Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. Not was the Lord, is the Lord. Present tense, active, alive, moving among His people even now. America stands at a crossroads tonight. One path leads to judgment we cannot escape. The other leads to revival we cannot imagine. And you, sitting in your living room, watching this message, you are part of the equation that determines which path we take. But let me shock you with something that will make your soul tremble. The generation rising up behind you, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, they're not inheriting the America you grew up in. They're inheriting the America your choices create today. Think about this. Your 16-year-old granddaughter doesn't know what it means to live in a nation under God because she's never seen it. Your 20-year-old grandson has never witnessed the power of united prayer in the public square because it's been banned from his world. They're spiritually starving in the land of plenty because their inheritance has been stolen. But here's the prophecy burning in my spirit for this hour. God is raising up grandparents, great-grandparents, senior saints who refuse to go quietly into the night. Men and women in their 70s, 80s, and 90s who will say, "Not on my watch, not while I still have breath in my lungs." You want to know why you've lived so long? Why you survived the heart attack at 72? Why you made it through the cancer at 85? Why you're still here when so many of your friends have gone home? Because God saved you for such a time as this. In a moment, I'll tell you the 3 signs you'll see in the next year that will confirm you were called for this hour. But first, you need to understand the weight of what's resting on your shoulders. Every prayer you don't pray is a door you don't open for your lineage. Every time you stay silent when you should speak up, you're writing a different future for your bloodline. Every moment you choose comfort over calling, you're trading your grandchildren's freedom for your temporary peace. The enemy has been working for decades to neutralize the senior saints because he knows something most churches have forgotten. Gray hair is a crown of glory when it's found in the way of righteousness. Proverbs 16:31. Your age isn't your weakness, it's your weapon. Right now, there are demonic principalities assigned specifically to convince America's elders that their time is over, that their voice doesn't matter, that they should step aside and let the younger generation handle things. But those are lies from the pit of hell. Moses was 80 when he confronted Pharaoh. Caleb was 85 when he said, "Give me this mountain." Anna was 84 when she proclaimed the Messiah. Your gray hair isn't a sign you're finished, it's a sign you're finally ready. But here's what terrifies the kingdom of darkness. When the senior saints of America wake up to their true calling, when they stop apologizing for their age and start wielding their authority, the spiritual atmosphere over this nation shifts instantly. I see grandmothers who will pray with such fire that drug dealers flee their neighborhoods. I see grandfathers who will speak with such authority that school boards reverse ungodly policies. I see senior saints who will stand with such boldness that revival breaks out in places where hope died years ago. This is not about politics, beloved. This is about the kingdom of God advancing through vessels that hell thought were too old to matter. This is about America rediscovering what happens when the generation that still remembers God decides to fight for their nation's soul. Your calling isn't just personal anymore. It's generational, it's national, it's eternal. The prayers you pray tonight will echo through the halls of Congress. The stand you take tomorrow will determine what classroom your great-grandchildren sit in 20 years from now. But you have to choose, and you have to choose now, because time is running shorter than you think, and America's window of mercy is closing faster than most realize. So let me ask you the question that will determine everything. Will you be the generation that watched America fall, or the generation that prayed America back to her knees? Listen to me, chosen one. Right now, at this very moment, something extraordinary is happening in the courts of heaven. Can you feel it? That stirring in your chest? That electricity in the air around you? That's not your imagination. That's the sound of your name being called before the throne of the Almighty God. The Bible tells us in Hebrews 12:1 that we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses. But I need you to understand something that will shake you to your very core. Those witnesses aren't just watching, they're testifying about you, your grandmother who prayed for you every single day until she drew her last breath. She's there. Your grandfather who worked 3 jobs to keep food on the table but never missed a Sunday service. He's standing in that courtroom. Every saint who ever lived, every martyr who ever died, every believer who ever fought the good fight, they're all there, and they're all looking at you. But here's what's going to devastate you. They're not just watching to see what you'll do. They're watching to see if you'll waste what they died to give you. They're watching to see if you'll throw away what they sacrificed everything to preserve. They're watching to see if you'll be the generation that breaks the chain of faith. Can you hear them? Moses is there, the man who gave up a palace to deliver his people. He's asking, will you give up your comfort to answer God's call? David is there, the shepherd boy who became a king. He's asking, will you face your giants or will you run? Paul is there, the man who counted everything as loss for the sake of Christ. He's asking, what are you willing to lose to gain eternity? But it's not just the famous ones, dear soul. It's your people. The ones who carried your bloodline through persecution, through poverty, through every hell this world could throw at them. They carried the torch of faith through the Great Depression. They held on to God through 2 world wars. They trusted Him when doctors said there was no hope. They believed when banks failed and dreams died. And now they're all looking at you. The last link in their chain of faith, the one they prayed would rise up, the one they believed would take the torch and run with it into the final stretch. Your great-grandmother who buried 4 children but never buried her faith. She's whispering your name right now. Your uncle who worked in the steel mills of Pittsburgh for 43 years and never missed a church service. He's calling out to heaven on your behalf. Every single person in your lineage who chose God over comfort, faith over fear, eternity over the temporary, they're all assembled in that courtroom. But here's what's going to break your heart wide open. Some of them are weeping. Not tears of joy, but tears of desperation. because they see what you can't see. They see the enemy's strategy. They see how close he is to stealing everything they died to preserve. They see how one decision from you could either secure their legacy or destroy it forever. Heaven's courtroom is not like earthly courts, beloved. There's no defense attorney making excuses. There's no prosecutor trying to convict you. There's only truth. Pure, unfiltered, inescapable truth. And the truth is this: every blessing you've received, every miracle you've witnessed, every time God made a way when there was no way, it all came through their prayers, their sacrifice, their refusal to quit. You think your struggles are about you. You think your calling is just personal. You think this moment is just between you and God. No, this is about generations. This is about bloodlines. This is about the completion of something that started long before you were born. That clock I told you about earlier. It's not just ticking down your time. It's ticking down their waiting. How long can they watch? How long can they hope? How long can they believe that their prayers, their tears, their very lives weren't wasted on someone who would choose comfort over calling? I will not warn you again about the urgency of this hour, but I will fight for you if you step forward. I will stand with you if you rise. I will add my voice to theirs if you choose to answer. Right now, and I mean right now, heaven is waiting for your response. Not tomorrow, not when you feel ready. Now, I want you to stand up where you are. I don't care if you're in your living room, your kitchen, your car. Stand up. Raise your hands toward heaven and declare with your voice out loud so that all of heaven and hell can hear you. Yes, Lord, I will not waste what they died to give me. Your witnesses are waiting. Your legacy hangs in the balance. What will it be, chosen one? Will you rise, or will you let their torch go out on your watch? Beloved chosen one, as we reach the end of this sacred encounter, I need you to carry 3 eternal truths with you, like precious stones in your heart. First, this was not a coincidence. You didn't stumble upon this message by accident. Heaven orchestrated this divine appointment because your name has been written in God's book since before time began. The urgency you felt, the stirring in your spirit, that was the voice of the Almighty breaking through the noise of this world to reach you. Second, the clock of mercy hasn't stopped ticking yet, but it is slowing. Every moment you hesitate, every day you delay, that pendulum swings a little slower. God's patience is vast, but it is not infinite. The door is still open, but it will not remain so forever. Third, your response today doesn't just affect you, it ripples through generations. The cloud of witnesses surrounding you aren't just spectators, they're participants in your victory. Their prayers, their sacrifice, their very lives have led to this moment when you must choose. But hear me clearly, you are not walking this path alone. The same God who called you is the God who will complete what He started in you. Even when the road grows dark, even when your strength fails, even when doubt whispers lies in your ear, He is still working, He is still moving, He is still fighting for you. And right here, in this community of believers, you have thousands of brothers and sisters who understand your struggle. We've felt the same calling, carried the same burden, heard the same voice. When you comment below, when you share your heart, when you ask for prayer, you're not just typing words on a screen. You're joining hands with a family that spans the globe, united by faith and bound together by the love of Christ. So let me ask you this final question, and let it echo in your heart long after these words fade. If you knew that tomorrow was your last chance to say yes to God, if you knew that tonight was your final opportunity to step into your calling, if you knew that this moment was the threshold between your old life and your eternal purpose, what would you do? Before I release you into your destiny, join me in prayer. Wherever you are right now, I want you to close your eyes and let me speak over your life with the authority of someone who has walked with God for decades. Heavenly Father, I come before your throne, carrying every precious soul who has heard this message. Lord, you see their hearts, you know their struggles, you feel their pain, and you celebrate their courage to listen when you called. Father, I place my hand on their shoulder right now through these words, and I pray that you would breathe fresh life into their weary bones. Where they are discouraged, strengthen them. Where they are confused, give them clarity. Where they are afraid, surround them with your perfect love that casts out all fear. God, open doors that no man can shut. Make crooked paths straight. Turn their mourning into dancing and their ashes into beauty. Give them dreams and visions that will guide their steps. Send divine connections into their lives, people who will recognize their calling and help them walk in it. Lord, heal their bodies, restore their relationships, and provide for every need according to your riches in glory. Let them feel your presence so strongly that doubt has no place to hide. Let them hear your voice so clearly that confusion cannot cloud their judgment. And Father, use their story, every painful chapter, every moment of triumph to set others free. Let their obedience become a catalyst for revival in their families, their communities, their nation. Let their yes to you echo through eternity. In Jesus' mighty name, I seal this prayer over their lives. Let your will be done, Lord. Let your kingdom come. Amen. Now, I want to hear from you. In the comments below, share how God spoke to your heart today. Tell us what you're believing Him for in this season. Ask for prayer. This community will surround you with intercession. And if this message touched your soul, please share it with someone who needs to hear that they're not alone, that God hasn't forgotten them, that their calling is still alive. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey. Thank you for opening your heart to receive what heaven wanted to pour into you tonight. If this is your first time here, welcome to the family. Hit that subscribe button and join thousands of believers who gather here regularly to be encouraged, equipped, and empowered for kingdom living. Remember, beloved, the warning has been given, but the door is still open. Your witnesses are watching, your legacy is waiting, and your God is calling. The only question that remains is, what will you do with this moment? Until we meet again, walk in the authority of your calling, rest in the certainty of His love, and never forget you are chosen, you are loved, and you are never, ever alone. May the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. Go in power, go in purpose. Go with the absolute certainty that your finest hour is not behind you, it's ahead of you. God bless you, chosen one. Your time is now.